Commence primary ignition.
Hey,
Hey, we're back.
it's that time. It's Wednesday.
You know what that means. Another episode
Well,
of Daughters of the Galaxy.
every other
Every
Wednesday
other
anyway.
Wednesday.
This is gonna be super distracting if I don't move it. Very
What is
professional.
it?
Let's do it during the show. There we go. It's a little Grogu, but his tag was like hanging down.
Oh,
He's
he's
cute. He's
cute.
angry.
Oh, it's the mad one. I love him.
He's furious, yeah, but
Oh, I love him.
his little tag's in the way, and it was gonna drive me crazy the whole show if I didn't move it.
Do
So
you
there we go.
love how Disney products have tags bigger than their whole bodies?
Yeah, it's because if they sell the product in all of the international parks, the tags have to have all of the languages represented.
Good to know.
So they have to have like Chinese and Japanese and French, and yeah, that's why the tags are so long. But they fixed them. Most of the new products now don't have that, so that's pretty good.
Cool.
So let's see who's coming in. Hopefully we're live on Facebook. Hopefully we're live. Okay, good. Facebook and YouTube look like they're working.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Give it a few moments for everybody to jump in.
I'm at the point where technology hates me, and I'm like,
Yeah,
it's just part of it. Hey, Jeff's here. Hi, Jeff.
Tough couple of tech weeks.
Now, the other night, like, my laptop took 20 minutes to at least 20 minutes to update before we went live for Rebels Revisited. And now tonight it was just like, come on, we got 5 minutes before the show comes on. Finish your stuff.
What?
Hi, John.
I
yes, please.
just oh
Mark.
Man,
And
my
Jason.
anxiety, I'm like always sitting in this room like 45 minutes just staring at my computer like, okay, everything is updated, everything is working. We're not going to have any tech issues tonight. Everything is great. I just have a lot of anxiety and panic, but it's fine. Works out most of the time.
Yeah. Most of the time. Ahsoka's here for the show, and yeah.
I don't have a single cat hanging out here. They're not allowed in this room. They know better than that. Nobody's allowed in this room. It's my room.
Yeah, I need to get some furniture so I can have my space and do my show in my office instead of in my bedroom. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I still don't have a desk, so I do all these shows sitting on the floor. So I mean,
yep, end of my bed, so it's all good.
Not so glamorous, trust me.
We make
very
it
high tech setup we have here.
Yes. Oh man.
So we got some folks jumping in, which is nice. Give it another couple of moments. As you can see from our lovely banner, beautiful banner overlay, we're going to talk about Jyn Erso, who I absolutely adore.
Yes. Tough business.
The way Rogue One, it's such a good movie. It's one of those things where it's like, I remember watching it for the first time and then like in the theater and then walking out of the theater feeling absolutely emotionally dead. Like literally was like, couldn't talk to anybody, just absolutely emotionally dead. And then thinking to myself, I want to watch this again, but like, do I have the emotional stamina to do this to myself? So yeah,
totally. Like I the rewatchability of it is very strong. Like there, yes, Mark, yes. Star Wars is trauma.
Yes.
Like there are certain movies that I've seen that I can never watch again, like because they're just so goddamn depressing.
Mm-hmm.
Like The Departed and Requiem for a Dream, like things like that I cannot watch ever again because it's like, yay, these people, that things are gonna happen, things are really gonna work out, and then it just ends in the most destructive ways possible, and it's like
plot twist,
right down to the terrifying snarling refrigerator. Long story, but yeah, but this is one of those movies where it's like this. Yes, at least I know
that's exactly it.
Ends. Yeah, and it's because it's set before the OT in a time where, you know, it led to the events of the OT and the events of the sequel trilogy and everything as well. Um, so we can see that though it does not end well for our heroes in Rogue One, um, it spawns a level of hope and of strength in the rebellion and the ability to fight back. So
Yeah, and Rogue One, to me is masterful storytelling, because while it's true that like we absolutely know how it ultimately ends, like we know what's going to happen, but there is something so special about that movie that we fall in love so hard with all of the individual characters, and that felt right down to the droid, it's like yeah, so it's a gorgeous film with incredible characters, beautiful storytelling. Tony Gilroy, like when they announced Andor was happening, I was like, okay, there can only be one person behind Andor.
absolutely.
When it was confirmed that it was Tony Gilroy, I was beside myself. I was like, oh my god, this is all I want. This is all I want.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Jin tonight, obviously as an incredible female lead, and being a strong female lead, um, in the Disney era, where we last week or the week before we talked about Rey and how we love Rey, but how a lot of Rey's story was kind of mired in the stories, the sort of clunky stories of the men around her,
Mhm.
and with Jin, it's actually almost the opposite. Jin's story really kind of stands on its own, between the film and the two books that were written around her. So there's a lot of really great stuff happening there. As a loving and friendly reminder, if you are joining us tonight through Facebook, could you do us a solid and either let us know who you are in a comment, or even better, go ahead and sign in with your StreamYard account just so we know who you are, because we absolutely want to talk to you. We want to engage with you.
Yeah.
We want to love you. But right now you just come up as a ghost as a Facebook user, so we don't know who you are. So if you could just do us a solid, let us know who you are, sign in with your StreamYard account, that would be stupendous.
Yeah, it's the fact that it is so um that Andor has managed to stay so deeply rooted in like the espionage and the sacrifice. Oh, it's Aaron Waldron. Hey, Aaron.
Oh, hey. Now we
Yeah,
know. Thank you.
the more you know. Okay.
Yeah.
Um the fact that it's managed to stay so solid and stay as gritty as Rogue One began, like you see like
Mm.
Cassian killing a fellow agent because he's like, crap, he's not gonna be able to climb out of here. His leg's busted, but oh well.
Oh, well.
Yeah, sacrifice. But
No, you're cool, Aaron. You're good. Now we know who you are, so that helps us.
we got you, buddy. We got you. Um no, I've never had it something end so terribly and me be so emotionally invested for the whole movie and just as one by one as all of them just go. It's just oh
Yeah, and that to me is how you handle like effective killing of characters. It's like
yeah.
if you have to kill them, like make them go out in a literal blaze of glory, and make it work for their character. But Jin's story is also such an interesting one because Star Wars is such a franchise built on like found families and around these not necessarily blood relations, but these familial sort of groups. Listen, I love the effective killing of characters. Um, but if
Laugh.
going back to Jin's origin story, she starts Rogue One, with two parents. Like we actually get to see a character who's like living with two parents, and um, you know, mostly happy in their life, and well, not mostly happy with her family, I should say. I mean, the life is kind of rough because Krennic shows up.
Yeah, clearly they're on the run, so the precautions
Yeah,
are in place and they know what's going to happen.
but they have each other, which is what I was getting
yeah.
at.
They live their lives in fear, but they keep Jin out of it until this moment. So that's the best thing for it. And she has two parents who are willing to to protect her and to make
Yeah.
sure she's safe at all costs. And even when Galen is taken away and Lyra is killed, dirtbags. Oh, sorry. I'm still bitter. I will always be bitter about Lyra Erso. I'm sorry. Um, it's they still know that she's going to. They've raised her to do what's right, and they've raised her to to go above and beyond to help the causes and to find those plans and get word about Project Stardust, which is why it's ultimately named after her.
So there's two books that, as I mentioned, probably like 6 times now. Sorry, my brain is in like 10,000 different places. So, like I said, I have no
Me
idea what's
too.
going to come out of my mouth. It's going to be
Nope.
great. Um,
That's why we
I
love
did
you,
all my
Jamie.
planning for this, and then it was like, oh yeah, what was I talking about again? I adult ADHD is a real thing, kids. Um,
Max.
so 2 books. We have Catalyst, which I will, full transparency, I literally ordered it on Amazon tonight. I thought I had it for some reason, and it's
Yeah,
possible that I
same.
did have it, and it's possible I lent it out to somebody and probably will never see it again, but that's fine.
Yeah.
A fun
I know
fact
I
about
won't, but
Catalyst, if you can find it in paper hardcover now, they have discontinued the hardcover from what I've seen.
mhm.
So if that's important to you, only reason I did it on Amazon right now is because I got it, like, I got a hardcover one, which is great. But if you are a hardcover collector, that one is going away. It's going to be paperback now. But Catalyst is all about the Ursos. So if you are really invested in the family dynamic between Galen and Lyra and Jin, that's the book for you. I'm excited to read it because honestly, like, any more backstory of a character that we really only get for one film, I think is, you kind of take those crumbs where you can get them. And we're lucky that we have
Yeah.
2 books about Jin.
Yeah, we
So
lucked
that's
out
the
big
first
time.
one. And then the second one is Rebel Rising. And Rebel Rising, I loved. It was one of
Mhm.
my lockdown reads during the pandemic, but I read it again not too long ago, and it gives us the story of Jin right up until Rogue One starts, and it gives such a great story between her and Saw. Which, if I had to give Rogue One any criticism, it's that the relationship between Saw and Jin was a little rushed, but only because I feel like they didn't have a lot of time to really explore that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Um, so the book does that, and the book does it very well. Beth Revis wrote that one. So yeah, that's definitely highly recommended. And that dynamic of seeing her grow up and like seeing her lose her parents, because it kind of takes place with flashbacks. So it starts like on the transport truck, before she's broken out, and then she's sort of flashing back to like her life with Saw, and living in that compound, and how Saw really kind of taught her how to fight, but he did it in the way that Saw Gerrera would, sort of does, right? Where he kind of keeps her at arm's length and may ultimately love her as a child, but like he's Saw. Like, he has one goal and one goal
Yeah.
only, and he's very, very focused on that. Tries to keep her protected, but also gives her all the tools that she would need to, you know, to be a fighter, and to be an asset to his community and to his cause.
And I feel like that's part of Saw who Saw is, like, especially since the Clone Wars and since he lost his
Mhm.
sister in
Mhm.
Geonosis. He doesn't love anything the way he loved his sister, and he
Mhm.
was a lot kinder then. And the fact that he is raising Jin and it's his friend and he knew both of them and this is a cause that they all believe in, but he's still keeping her at arm's length is just a testament where it's like, okay, also if I love something, I need to keep it at arm's length or I won't get hurt if something happens to this person. And
Well, oh, go ahead.
I no, I was good. It was just like the opposite happens. Like Jin loses him in the
Right.
end. So that's probably why his walls kind of break down a little bit because he realizes that if they do come here and if they are going to destroy Jeddah, I'm done. So his walls come down and he's kinder to Jin in that moment. It's
Mm.
in a very saw backhandy kind of way, but yeah.
Well, but it's interesting because I can't help but think about what we talked about with our last show with these male characters and their clunky stories affecting Ray. This is, in my opinion, it's almost exactly the opposite. It's like you have a really conflicted character like Saw, who's like the definition of a gray character, right? Some
Yeah.
people think he's good, some people think he's bad. Guy obviously has a ton of trauma, but like despite the fact that we know his trauma and like we know who he is from the Clone Wars and what he's gone through from the Clone Wars,
Yeah.
his very complex story and his sort of complex emotions and who he is as a character doesn't drag Ray. I see, I said it doesn't drag Jin down with him. It
Yeah.
it enhances her story, but it certainly doesn't make it heavier. It doesn't make it clunkier. It kind of makes you it gives you like a different dimension of who she is and why she is the way that she is in Rogue One. Because she's kind of prickly in Rogue One. She's not, she's not this instantly lovable, like, good
I
girl. She's
I
got a
think
lot of rough
K2 says it
edges.
best. Her congratulations, you're being rescued as he drops her on the floor with a
It
stiff arm. It's
Yeah. I
oh,
Rogue One was I think about this movie, and honestly, like, I really had every intention to rewatch before our show tonight, but I was not in the headspace to watch Rogue One. It
it's
was like
heavy.
I was like, "I'm gonna watch it," and then I was like, th no.
It's
Nope,
it's
can't
not
do it right
it's
now."
totally the opposite of watching a movie like Solo or watching a movie like The Force Awakens. Like the stakes are pretty low.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I know Han Solo dies in The Force Awakens. I get it. But the emotional weight of losing all of your main characters in one movie is just like it's hard to beat. It's really hard
Well,
to
and,
beat.
it's funny you mentioned Solo too because, there's actually some crossover in one of the books between Enfys Nest, and I'm trying to remember the hook here, but basically Saw is like approaches Enfys Nest with Jin about the use of coaxium and is like bargaining with her about all the sort of weird stuff that was going on during Solo. It's wild, but yeah, like there's some fun crossover stuff
Wow.
there. Um, but yeah, no, it's definitely one of those movies where like you just have to have the right headspace going in because like you sit down to watch it, you're like, oh man, everyone's gonna die. This is
Or
a
be really
downer.
sick and no just be like, I'm not even gonna struggle. It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
It's totally fine. Turn it on. I need a good cry. Or if you're like really emotional for like, pre-suffering and stuff like that. Yeah, just put it on and have a good cry. That's what
It's
I do.
yeah, for sure. And it's one of those movies too where like I can't watch it in the background. Like
No.
Rogue One is not a background movie for me. Like I could put on,
Mm.
the prequels or I could put on the original trilogy and keep them on in the background and not think anything of it. And I'll, peek in when I'm, one of my favorite scenes is coming up. Man, Rogue One, I'm like a moth to a flame. I'm like, I hate that I'm doing this right now, but I'm gonna watch the whole thing. And
Even my
it's
mother
just
gets invested and she doesn't
Mhm,
care. It's like she's wait a minute. No, isn't he helping? Like, oh my god, when Chirrut sacrifices himself and
mm-mm,
Daze is yelling, my
mm-mm,
mama goes, "No." I'm
don't
like,
like that. Don't like
"Stop
that.
it. No."
Uh, it's also like the more what I'm really loving about this timeline in Star Wars right now, of all the things that are coming out right now, and
Yeah,
all of these books and these movies and these comics, is that like to the comment that I think Mark probably just tossed in there about Jin and Enfys Nest needing to meet on screen. Like
yeah,
that's not impossible because there
no.
is some very like masterful sort of puppet work going on in the background of how these characters all kind of overlap and like watching Rogue One now that I've been so deeply invested in all the stuff that's been going on Jeddah with phase 2 of the High Republic. I think it will actually paint like an even deeper or more complex version of what of the Jeddah that we see in Rogue One, or at the very least like the Guardians of the Wills.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some really interesting stuff going on there. I would love to see Jin and Enfys Nest meet somehow, but uh I don't know that I feel like we need any more of Jin's story. I feel like between the 2 books and the movie, we have gotten the most beautiful,
Yeah.
sort of arc for her and the most beautiful, like, real meaning for a character. Like, to me, the most beautiful moment in that film is absolutely the very end with Leia, where she was successful and Leia has the plans to the Death Star. Like,
And
whoa.
Leia's face, she's like, "We have it." And forget all the people that have just been senselessly murdered by your father, but, it's totally fine.
Yeah, those last scenes, it was one of those things where it was almost like a fake out when you saw it in the movie theater. You're like, "Okay, the movie's over." And then you're like, "Oh, just kidding. Oh, just kidding. Darth Vader's about to be as scary as he's ever been, and we're gonna get Leia."
I saw like a
And,
meme, like one of those like the Reddit memes where it's like he turned off his chest plate. No lights on the chest plate to scare the shit out of those rebels. And he succeeded. He scared the shit out of everybody in that
yeah,
theater. Like
everyone,
yeah.
when that red lightsaber ignites, I was like
Yeah. Yeah.
like, it really took a lot out of me, but as scary and as incredible as that moment was, I really think the most beautiful moment in that entire movie is knowing that Jin Erso had a hand in one of the most iconic scenes in all of Star Wars. She wasn't
Yeah.
there, but she had a hand in, you know, Leia recording with R2 and, having those plans to the Death Star. I just think is the most, it's so good.
It couldn't have
So
happened
good.
without her or Andor or Chirrut and Baze and K2 and
And
like
the absolute, like, watching them struggle for it and like
uh
feeling those scenes where, they're climbing trying to find the actual, like, plans and everything. First of all, I have vertigo, so that was like the hardest thing to watch in a movie theater ever because
oh
I'm like,
my
they're gonna fall,
god.
they're gonna
Yeah.
fall, they're gonna fall, she's gonna fall, she's gonna fall.
I saw that in
Uh
IMAX. Oh,
mm-mm,
like
don't like that.
no, no.
Uh and then what was the other thing I was gonna say? Oh, see, there it is. The adult
But
ADHD
having
kicked in.
having like them sacrifice so much, like from stealing an imperial transport to going against, Mon Mothma and the entire rebellion to do this, and then not having their support until like the absolute last second. when
Yeah, Scarif was a bit of a mess.
ugh, though I gotta say it's fine. It's totally fine having like a beachy, tropical planet for a change instead of just a straight deserty beach planet
It's true.
or
I mean, if you've
ice
gotta go
planet.
down anywhere, it's like
Yeah.
you could either die on Hoth or you could die on Scarif. I mean,
I mean, sign me up.
I would take Scarif.
Mhm.
That's just me.
All day.
Uh, I
And I have
don't
to
like
say, like,
snow.
it kind of like confirmed, like, as much as he was like just horribly catty about it, and I don't blame him for being bitter about being screwed over by Grand Moff Tarkin, but Director Krennic is probably one of the most ruthless bad guys because, like, instead of them coming with him, he just like, just shot his wife and like just shot Galen's wife and just was like, okay, you're coming with me or you're going to die. And
Yeah. It was yeah. So thinking about these scenes and like my thoughts are all over the place. So obviously all the preparation and work I did for this show has gone completely out the window
nope,
right now because
fine,
like I'm all over the place.
fly, keep flying. We got
But
this.
it was, I mean, even from those opening scenes, like it was such a dark film for Disney. I
And
was
he
like,
presented himself
"Oh,
like as a friend. He's like, I want to help you. I'm taking
yeah."
all of you. I'm just gonna murder your wife and demand that your child be taken too. But
But then
uh
also like as a child, so she's obviously watching all of this stuff happen, but then like she also doesn't really don't choke on your ambitions really was the best line ever.
yeah.
That was really like, "Oh,
Vader be
Vader is
cracking
not here to mess
jokes.
around. He is not here to play."
Deli
Um,
jokes.
but having little Jin watch all of this happen, but then also not really knowing what her dad's role was with the Empire and having, you know, the books kind of cover this more where it's like she was moved around from point A to point B and she knew that her dad had all of um this, very specialized, very unique knowledge that would ultimately help the empire, but like she still wanted to believe in her dad and be like, "No, my dad's not going to work for the empire. My dad's not going to work for the empire." And then it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, dad's working for the empire. Crap." And the very complicated relationship that she has, especially like in the movie when she's trying to rescue him. I mean, that's some complex, like really heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Because you always want to believe the best in your parents. You always want to believe that, like, your parents, especially when she's that little. And granted, she's older by the time she tries to rescue her dad, but like, you want to believe that your parents are like good people and wouldn't fall prey to the really manipulative, hands of the empire. And
Or be
it
among the
happens.
same people that just killed your mom.
Also
Like,
that.
yeah, it's just
Also that.
I don't think she ever stopped believing that her father was a good person, which is
Mm,
why she's like absolutely pissed off at Cassian when he tries to shoot him. Um,
mm.
but the fact that um he was considered among their top scientists and he was still dragged out with the others, and by then it's too late to pull back the rebellion because they're already on their way and they're taking out that platform because the Imperial's on it. And it's just such a cruel twist of fate because it's like they can finally be together, they can finally be a family, they can finally stop this, and then Galen gets killed by
Mm.
the rebellion. So
Mhm.
it's just, oh, it's enough. It should have been enough to shake anybody's belief in what the rebellion stands for, but instead it solidifies it for Jin. And she's like, this is what we need to do. We're going all in on this. We're
Right.
not going to let my father's
Mm.
work be in vain. Like,
Right.
she knew that he was trying to stop it. And by the way that, she saw with her own eyes that his own people, the Imperials, were trying to take him out.
Well, and I think what's really interesting about this is that, like, without the context really of like Andor, because like obviously this movie came out well before Andor did.
Right.
Without the context of Andor, we don't really get a lot of why Cassian is the way that he is. And now that we have this first season, we know that the second season is coming, and that second season will literally bring us up to the very beginning of the film. Um, it kind of I really need honestly, like, bad fan right now. Like, I really do need to do my due diligence and watch Rogue One again through the lens of Andor. Having seen Andor now, because thinking about this dynamic between Jin and her parents, and thinking about this dynamic between Cassian and Marva,
Mm.
um, there's some really interesting, like, similarities, but also with, like, some really big differences there. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is that both characters, both Jin and Cassian, um, I don't necessarily think wanted to be involved. Like, they just didn't want to be involved with this. And in both cases, it was their families that really pulled them in.
And
Um,
in Cassian's case, he was an orphan. His entire
mm,
planet, aside from a few children, were gone, and Marva saved him. Um, with Jin, it was the opposite. Like, her parents were part of it. They wanted out, and she got pulled in the rebellion side with Saw, and even more so than she did with her own parents. Like, I honestly don't think she would have had, if he had stayed hidden and not rejoined the Empire. I honestly think that she wouldn't have joined the rebellion unless
mm,
there was something
I
major. Like,
agree.
she was just perfectly happy being on her little planet with her family.
Right. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. And I think I think it's sort of like what you said. It's like that radicalization of like watching what the Empire did to did to her family was enough to say, all right, enough's enough. Like, it's time for me to like actually step in on this and like have
Yeah, because the Empire, I mean, the rebellion didn't know that Galen was responsible for putting a flaw in the Death Star that would destroy it and save everyone.
what a
They didn't
guy.
know that part. So they were just looking to take out as many Imperials as they could. And when they heard that Galen Erso was there and he was one of the top scientists for the Empire, it made him a prime target.
Right. Right.
Never mind that he was working on the side of good the whole time. They just saw that he was an Imperial scientist and he needed to go. And
And see,
that's the heartbreaking part.
it is. It's the heartbreaking part, but it makes you sort of it almost makes you appreciate like the lengths that we're going to get these added layers to these characters, because like when Star Wars came out in the 70s, it was like you have good, you have bad, you have Empire is bad, Rebels good. And we didn't get as much of that nuanced gray
Yeah.
as you could argue. Like, okay, Han was, he was a smuggler, he wasn't really playing for either side, whatever. But like, now that we're getting these deeper stories and we're getting all these different uh channels of storytelling through video games and comics and movies and books
Yeah.
and TV shows, it's fascinating to me to see you know how they can take a character like Galen, who sort of played both sides a little bit, and characters like Jin, who could have gone really either way, could have been radicalized one way or another, and managed to still stay very conflicted and very gray. So um it's it's a great time to be into Star Wars and to get these
Yeah.
complex characters. If only they could have made a sequel trilogy.
I know. Oh my goodness.
So
But I feel
still
like
thinking about that.
I know we will always be thinking about that. But I honestly like how they didn't do, and as you said earlier, they didn't do what they did with Ray. They gave Jin a story, a purpose. She's driving it, and all these other characters are there to help her. They're like NPCs for all intents and purposes. She's the main character. She's player 1 in this story. It's her from beginning to end, and it's it's her story. She doesn't let any other thing diminish her. Even like the death of her father doesn't diminish her. Like she keeps her strength, she keeps her focus, and right until the very end, she's the lead in her own story. And I think they could have learned a lot from that.
They also, I think Tony Gilroy is so good
Yeah.
at he's just so good, honestly. But like his writing is so strong, and it's like
Yeah.
giving it was the double whammy of Tony Gilroy's incredible writing and direction and um Felicity's delivery of some of these really incredibly iconic lines. Like when I think about Jyn Erso, like my brain, my first place with my brain goes with her is always that like round table when she's trying to convince the rebels to join up and to like listen to her and to follow her. I'm like, man, what a oh god, that scene is so beautiful, and it really is homage to like some of the stuff in the original trilogy, and it's just it's Felicity Jones. She's so good.
Yeah.
She's so good, and I
Also.
have a little crush on her, so I mean, it's fine. She's so good. Tony Gilroy is the goat. I'm gonna say it over and over and over again. He This man understands nuance, I think, better than like any writer in Star Wars right now. I know a lot of people didn't love Andor because they didn't like how it opened and it moved a little slow in those first couple episodes, and there's so much going on to it. But like, I I will watch anything that man produces for Star Wars, and I hope he's not done. But I think I'm hearing rumors that after Andor, I think he is, and I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
oh,
Oh, we'll see what else he does.
God, I hope he
Yeah.
sticks around.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he's so good. I
Yeah,
loved Andor.
it's the fact that the stakes are really high. Like right from the start, the stakes are high. Like her family, her planet, everything is taken from her. Her peace, and she's thrown into essentially a life of crime, being a rebel,
I just call it
and
what it is. This life of crime.
a life of crime, being on the run from the empire, being on the run from everybody, and just trying to survive. And then when the heat gets too thick, Saw just dumps her in a bunker with a blaster and says, "Sorry, kid, see ya."
See ya.
And it's like, okay, think about it. When you were 16, do you want to be like dumped off by someone who's supposed to be your guardian and somebody your parents trusted to keep you alive? And his reasoning for doing so, at first, the first time I saw it, I was just like, really? Like, but again, I think that's part of Saw's character flaws and stuff where it's like, you were getting too close. My men were getting suspicious. I had to protect you. And I kind of understand that. But at the same time, I'm just like, Saw, you could have been better at this. Like, come on.
I mean,
But
to be
again,
fair,
yeah,
it's not exactly like a great paternal figure.
no.
We see
Oh
that
dear
over
Lord.
and over again.
Yeah, yeah, over and over and over. Yeah. So even to the point when he gets the cold hard proof that Galen is going to destroy the Death Star, and Galen has planted the plans to destroy the Death Star. He takes her coming to him on Jeddah as like, somebody sent you here to kill me, not like, hey, you finally figured it out. Like, your father left you a message. Let's go destroy the Death Star. Like he just can't get out of his own way with this.
Yep. Yep. And I think that's honestly like that's part of why a lot of people just really don't like Saw because he is so hyper focused. But I think when you think of somebody who is a zealot, so much of a zealot,
Yeah.
like like um like Saw is, I think at that point it becomes like a mental condition, right? Like he's not going to get out of his own way because like he's too hyper focused and he's too focused on revenge and
He's like
um
Vader. He's 90% machine at that point.
well, yes, also that. Like that's also like
Yeah.
whew, that's a tough scene to watch because like
Uh,
he is more machine than man at that point.
yeah.
Um but I think I I I kind of like how it ends with him because I think that that's very on brand with like her whole
Yeah.
relationship with him. Like it doesn't she's only ever known him as this like kind of crazy like zealot, the war, this crazy guy that wants to fight his war his own way. And I like that they didn't compromise his story in that moment or give them
Yeah.
that like touchy-feely moment because it wasn't appropriate in that moment. I think
I mean, he
um
tries, but she's just
he
like,
tries, but it's almost like a too little too late. It's like
yeah,
he's not gonna change even in his last moments.
no,
So I absolutely can't see past the end of his nose. That is
yeah, John,
110% true.
totally true.
Um and everything that he does, and like the man I think has just straight up active paranoia on top of everything else, because like even thinking about some of the people in his compound, like you can tell who he trusts and who he doesn't, and who he folds in and who he doesn't. It's actually very, again, we kind of see it in Andor with um the rebels that oh my god, brain, make the words. Mon Mothma's cousin, why am I forgetting her name?
Vel,
Val, that's the one with Val and Val's team. They're very similar in a lot of ways. Maybe not quite at the extremist level, but they're
yeah,
similar.
like the amount of
Uh,
trust is the amount of mistrust is high, like
yes,
incredibly high, as K2 estimated, but
yes,
it's
yes.
very high.
K2, and like okay, just thinking about some of these dynamics between like Jin and other characters, though, like uh, the Jin and K2 dynamic is also like one of my favorite things because listen, I love it. I love a droid. There's no hiding it. I love droid. I actually wore
Did
my
you know
K2
that
ring today and
wasn't
stuff. I love it
me?
so much. Oh God,
Yeah,
he's
totally. As my blaster is smoking from taking out that enforcer droid just there, that I
100%
totally
one of
didn't
my
realize
favorite
I was.
droids. Absolutely love K2. But I think the real relationship that I think is really masterfully written. Um, we did talk a little bit about Galen's relationship with
Yeah,
Jin.
but Lonnie, we want to hear your thoughts on it too. You're always welcome to share your thoughts on it.
um, the one relationship and one of the things that really worked for me in Rogue One, because like I don't generally participate in the shipping culture that is rampant with Star Wars and people
No.
shipping this character with that character, but let me tell you, the feelings I have for Cassian and Jin. Oh, I got a lot of feelings for Cassian and Jin, and I think it's because they both have such ugly, traumatic issues that they're dealing with, and they don't compromise. Like neither one of them is really there to fix the other's issues.
Yeah.
Um, you know, eh, Cassian calls her out and is like, "Oh, so suddenly this is real for you? It's been real for me since I was 6." He calls her out on her perceptions on things and the
Yeah.
way that she behaves and the way that she, acts or doesn't act sometimes. And it's just, oh man, that last moment before they both meet their end is just, oh god, it's such a
A lot of people say, "Oh,
heartbreaking romance.
it's oh my god." Okay, so it can be perceived two ways. It can be perceived as like these are true friends. They found the found family. Everyone else that was with them is gone. This is their last chance to say goodbye and just focus on like this human moment as everything is about to burn around them and just focus on that. Or you could just be like, "Okay, this is what could have been if they had survived this." And it could have been more. It's the potential that absolutely kills me in that scene because I'm like,
Yeah.
what would have happened? Like we see it now with Binks, with Bix. Sorry, Binks. Oh, I get my Disney's
Wrong
crossed up.
franchise.
Wrong franchise. We see it with Bix. He loved her, and
Yeah.
they had a thing, but um, the rebellion and the fighting and everything, survival gets in the way, and I think this would have been the closest he came to that since Bix. So,
Well, and
if they had lived.
if they had lived. I also, look, especially looking at like the picture on our overlay right now and like thinking about Bix, I'm like, they have more than a little bit in common, like appearance wise and like trauma wise. They're both definitely there. And I think it's also, again, Rogue One being written before Andor, we don't know how much of like the plot of Andor was kicking around old Tony Gilroy's brain while he was writing Rogue One. Um, but again, you can kind of project a little bit, like knowing everything that Bix has gone through at the hands of the Empire, knowing what Jin has gone through at the hands of the Empire, I mean, I think there's a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe a need to protect or to, I don't know. What I'm getting at here, and as I ramble and rant and rave and ramble some more, is that like that's one of those relationships in Star Wars that I'm like, mhm, yep, I don't get into shipping culture. I like that one. I like that
Yeah.
relationship a lot. And you know,
To me, it's the only one that I like would ship because it's not concrete. The other ones are like obvious, like Han and Leia and Hera and Kanan. Like those are I like the definites. The definites are good. This is a ship I can get behind. So yeah, that's where I go. What are you doing?
um I don't know, what is she doing?
She's like she's chasing a moth and she just like launched herself off my leg across the room to get it. Well, she
Cat
got it.
brain.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Cat brain.
Meow. Okay.
Um, yeah. So
Sorry.
I'll be curious to see. I'm excited to read Catalyst. That should be here by the end of the week, although my reading list is getting out of control.
Yeah, phase 3
Um,
started, so you must have a
my book
lot
will
to
be here
go through.
tomorrow. I have to finish
Yes.
Cataclysm. Listen, I read 3 books in a week, and my head is still spinning, and I have all this EU stuff that's like piling up now, and yeah, it's a lot of reading. But now that I know that this one's coming, and like I want the context of the rest of the Erso clan. And by the clan, I mean like really just her parents. But like I want that context because I think now that I'm like thinking about like my ultimate plans as we get into the winter, like I'm gonna read that. I'm gonna reread Rebel Rising. I'm gonna maybe watch season 1 of Andor again because I love to suffer. And then I think I'll watch Rogue One because that's, the ultimate icing on the cake, on the suffer cake, is to watch Rogue One. Um, who else are we shipping in Rogue One and Andor? Absolutely. Well, Cyril and Deidre. I don't want Cyril to be happy, so I don't want him to find happiness with
Yeah.
anybody.
And also, like, I think Dedra is, like, he's willing to go above and beyond for her, like, as evident in that by him saving her life. However, I just don't think she needs anybody. I think she's
Yeah, I
gonna
don't either.
I think she's gonna do him dirty.
Yep, I think that that's very in line with her. And honestly, like Cyril sucks. I'm just
Yeah.
like in
Find
the
a
best way
less
possible. Like
wimpy man with
Cyril sucks.
also finely tailored suit. Just saying, because A plus on those tailoring.
He's just like it's another interesting approach with both Rogue One in my opinion and with Andor is seeing the absolute um like ass kissing to move up in the empire, right?
Oh
Because
God,
especially
yeah.
like we see it, the obvious ones here would of course be Cyril trying to move his way up, but like Krennic is a little bit of that too. Um and
He goes right to Vader.
yeah, 100%. So, I think both stories tell or drop some really interesting um perspectives on what it's like to actually be working within the empire, and whose favor you kind of have to earn, and what happens when you fail versus what happens when you succeed. So I think that's also a very interesting thing to see because like with the rebellion, at least, like yes, of course there's like chains of command and things like that, but it's not nearly as organized as the very militant empire. So seeing
Right.
that kind of work its way up is fascinating to me. And then also knowing that people like Cassian are very aware of what the structure and the order is in the empire and uses that to his advantage. So
Yeah. Just
um
walk right in like you own the place.
walk right in like you own the place. Play it cool.
The
Play it
thing that I
cool.
find absolutely fascinating is another bit of difference between Director Krennic and Grand Moff Tarkin. Like Tarkin usurps the brainchild of Krennic, and despite Krennic going directly to Vader and Vader just being like, "Yeah, quit whining about it," and, and just being like so kind of pushing him off and brushing him off, and in the end, Krennic gets shot and dies. That's how he goes. Tarkin blows up with the Death Star. Just saying. Who got the
I
get the
mean,
worst thing here?
yeah. Krennic,
Like, okay,
honestly,
you love it
like,
so much, you're gonna get blown up in it. Okay.
yeah, Krennic. I find it very poetic the way that he goes, especially after like starting the movie with him shooting Lyra. It's like, well,
That's how you
sucks to
go.
suck, dude.
That's how you go.
Um, his was a death that I definitely cheered at in the theater. I was like, bye.
And the fact that she wanted to go back there and shoot him again was just like that would I felt that like anybody else would have been like, no, that's a waste of screen time. I'm like, no, when that son of a bitch whites out your whole family and everybody you've ever known and whole planets of people that you had just gotten to know, no,
But
make
see,
sure that
that's what I
bastard's
think.
dead.
What really, really separates Jin from a lot of these other characters that we've talked about is like Jin is feral. I mean, she is absolutely uh, the nature of the things that she's seen and the way that she was raised. Like, sis is absolutely feral. And listen,
Mhm.
I am here for it. And that grittiness about her, I think, is what
Yeah.
really, really separates her from characters like Rey, from characters like Leia, from characters like Mon Mothma. I mean, seeing the two of them, especially now that Andor's out, oh my god, my brain is like, sorry, Office reference. My brain is going a mile a minute. The uh, seeing the juxtaposition between like Rey, who I keep saying it, Jin, who is so gritty and who is so um has all this trauma versus somebody like Mon Mothma who still has this trauma, but she is so poised and refined even in the midst of battle. Like, I just think those two characters side by side are really, really fascinating.
Oh
I think it's
yeah.
all but confirmed we are not seeing, not all but confirmed, I think it is confirmed that we are not seeing Jin in Andor season 2, which is really for the best because honestly Andor season 2 has a lot to wrap up before the movie. Um but man,
I
I
just
would
as long as they
love.
meet K2, that's all I care about.
He's confirmed. Yeah, we're my best friend and I were actually just talking about this. K2 should be confirmed. So I love that for us. Um, but yeah, I would love to see them side by side. Let's see.
Yeah.
Uh Jin is one of us. We are all Jin. We are all we are regular people
Yeah.
on the ground, and that's why the grit is relatable. Listen. Yes, 100%. Um,
And
yeah, when you don't have
Cassian is
power, ooh,
yeah,
put that on a t-shirt. When you don't have power, your only weapon is grit. That's like poetry.
yeah, girl.
It's
Love
poetry.
it.
Uh,
Like guys, put that on a shirt. Seriously. With like a shadow of gin. I would love it. Love it.
uh, but it is, and honestly, I think she embraces that. Like, she's not there to be anything that she's not, and I think that's a big lesson from Saw, right? Like, Saw is not a clean fighter; he is a dirty fighter,
Yeah.
and that I think is ultimately like his legacy that he passed down to her, and I like that they didn't compromise that. And I like that they didn't soften that because the tendency I think would be like, oh, we have to make this character relatable to all the young girls out there. I'm like, no, make her angry, make her gritty, make her feral and unhinged and make her want to go back and shoot Krennic a second time and make her
Yeah.
have all of these
The
these really
yeah, the real like
struggle moments.
issues.
It's
Yeah.
war. We are at war.
It ain't pretty. And
I
my
think we
favorite part
forget.
is like you have Jin who's got family that are basically in deep with the empire. You have Cassian whose mother was adopted mother was the daughters of Phoenix and Ferrix and did spoke out against empire occupation, but he didn't come from imperialists. Like he didn't come from any of that. He had been part of it whether he wanted to or not because the empire took over his planet and then his mother rescued him and the empire killed his mother. So it just keeps it's in it for a reason and they all have different reasons to be there. Like K2 is a reprogrammed imperial droid. Baze and Chirrut are guardians of the wills that the Empire had stripped their planet and their temple um, on Jeddah. It's they've all had a reason to be there, and they were different reasons, and they were real reasons. And the fact that it's not someone who's a Jedi or an Imperial soldier or a Sith, it's one of us, as Lonnie said, one of us.
Well, and John says in spite of that, she doesn't lose her humanity, and I think that's also a little bit of a differentiator between
Yeah.
her and, like, I think that's ultimately what she imparts on somebody like Cassian, right? Because Cassian is pretty ruthless. I mean,
You're
he's
like, "No, don't save
pretty
the kid.
ruthless.
Leave him or
I
leave
mean,
her."
there's a reason why, like, he pals around with a droid. I just,
A
he
sarcastic
can't.
droid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think that that's another really interesting, sort of side by side between Jin and Cassian is that, yeah, I think you're right. Um, Jin, at least in Rebel Rising, my sort of take on her young interactions with Saw was that she almost like wanted those friends. Like she wanted that sense of belonging. She wanted to feel that family, that familiarity that you get from your
Yeah.
family and that love and that closeness that you get from your family. And it just was sort of denied to her over and over again because it wasn't a priority to Saw. Saw again had his mission. He was going to do that. So
Yeah.
I think it is amazing that she has that humanity. And I think it is amazing that she doesn't lose it despite it all.
Yeah.
So, I, Jin was such a welcome female lead for me when I saw Rogue One for the first time because, like, we all kind of knew what Rogue One was going to be about. And, like, of course, we all know the ending and the premise and everything. But what really made that movie so shocking to so many of us and really resonated with so many of us wasn't that they got the plans to the Death Star. We knew that was coming, but it was it was the friends we made along the way. Uh,
Of
it
course.
was it was those characters that you kind of don't know what you don't know, right? We never had those characters before this moment, and now that we have them, it makes the plans to the Death Star um, that much more like real, like more impactful because you know what was you're seeing what was sacrificed in order to get them. Um, they made that story matter. God, they sure
Right.
did. And just in like all the right ways. It hit all of the right points. It hit all the right beats. It could have easily been, dismissed as a quick one shot in the comics, or it could have easily have been, something they wrote into a book or something like that. But giving us this story and really giving us these characters,
Yeah.
um, I I know there's like, oh, we could have Jin doing XYZ and we could have Jin having with a scene with this character or that character. But honestly, like I think her story was so beautifully told.
Yep.
And I really feel like at this point, let's be so thankful for the story that we got with Jin because while there are other characters, Ray, who really needed their redemption moments,
Yeah.
Jin, I don't think has
Redemption.
anything to
Yeah.
redeem.
Yeah.
She doesn't have anything to redeem. She did it. And God, that's why I love Jin ever so. Oh, love
Yeah.
Jin.
Now I want to go watch rewatch Rogue One again, but I can't because I have to
No,
be up
I'm
really early for work tomorrow. Damn.
mentally not prepared for that. But I really am. The more I think about this, the more I like the idea of like trying to do like a mini Rogue One marathon where it's like 2 books, a season of Andor, and then watching Rogue One.
And then
Maybe
watch
I'll.
the Forces of Destiny short.
Oh yeah, she's in. Yeah, for those of you who like the animated stuff, she's in like a handful of episodes of Forces of Destiny. And if I'm not mistaken, I actually think it is Felicity Jones that voices her.
Yeah,
It could be.
they
Yeah,
got
I
her
think
to
it
do
is.
it. That's what I
Um,
love about them. Like they're geared towards like really young children, but they have the actresses involved. Like Daisy
yeah.
Ridley's in it, Felicity Jones is in it. Um,
And she has an episode with Sabine. So I
yeah,
mean, if you're a
yeah,
Rebels fan, she has like a
and
cute episode with Sabine
Tuca
and Cat.
cats,
Yeah.
Tuca cats, kids,
It's
Tucas.
cute. Yeah, they're definitely cute. My only guff with them is that when I watch them on like Disney Plus and I start streaming them, because they're so short, I feel like the entry with the Maz Kanata like lead in is so long. It's like
Right.
watching
Thank you.
like
It's
can I
not
just
just
skip?
me.
Yeah, I wish there was a way to like just automatically remove like the lead in and just go from episode to episode because like
I love you, Lupita Nyong'o, but yeah,
yeah, it's too long. Between that and the credits, like it's like 10 minutes per episode, but like I don't know, 6 of those minutes is like the lead in and the outro.
yeah. Oh, Lonnie said, yeah, Kelly Marie Tran is part of it as Rose. That's awesome. So
Yeah, they're really cute and I really like them and I'm waiting until Sabine's a little bit older and then I'll let her watch them. But
yes,
um
you have the dolls,
yeah,
right?
I have I have a couple of the dolls. I do have Jin. I have 4 of them. I passed on them when they were like being released and now of course like the FOMO is real and I'm like, "Oh, I should have gotten XYZ." But I have the important ones. I have
Yeah.
Sabine, well, the important ones to me. I have Jin, I have Sabine, I have one Ray, I have two Leias. I guess I have five. Yeah, I have five of them.
Yeah, I
So
have Lan, Wicket, Sabine, Jin, Ray, uh, Leia with R2, and Ahsoka.
yeah, we have the same two Leias because I have Wicket and I have R2.
That one
They're
was hard
cute.
to get.
Yeah.
I didn't want Chewbacca because he looked scary, but
Yeah, I keep like a save search on with them. We've totally deviated here. I have a save search on for them for like eBay, and every now and again I'll like check and see if anything comes up. But oh,
and
see, listen, I'm sitting in an office filled with toys. One day I'll do like a formal like a tour of my office because it's literally just Star Wars and Disney princess toys, and it's really hard because I have a 2-year-old. So whenever she comes in, like I did, this is really embarrassing. I was on a live Zoom call with Caven Scott, who, if you don't know, is one of the architects of the High Republic. So it's like really like I was living my best life. But Sabine didn't want to go down for her nap, so she joined me on the Zoom call. And the only this is so bad. The only way that I could get her to like calm down was to open one of my dolls for her. So I literally had to like find like the lowest end, like the most replaceable doll that I could, and just opened up a Disney Store doll for her and said, "You play with this while I listen to this man talk about the High Republic."
it's totally
So
important. Mommy's in business right now.
mommy's doing Star Wars things, but she just really wanted to be on that call, and it was
Oh,
both
so
mortifying and
cool.
adorable because she kept sticking her face in, and Caven Scott would be like, "Hey." So
Yes, Lonnie, yes.
she's not spoiled at all. But yeah, there's a reason why she's not allowed in this very floor to ceiling shelved room of Star Wars and Disney toys.
Not till you're
Fine.
12. 10
Yeah,
more years,
it's fine.
kid.
She's gonna have zero inheritance because I'm poor, but man, she's gonna have some cool toys she can sell on eBay after I die. So
Oh my gosh.
fine.
I told my nieces, if anything happens to me, I'll give you my log of everything and how much it's currently worth.
Yeah, yeah,
There you go.
absolutely. Pay for college by selling some of mommy's artwork, kiddo. It's
Yes.
fine.
It's really fun.
Um, right. So that's Jin. There's so much more, and honestly, like as we do these, we're gonna ultimately revisit a lot of these characters as our show schedule progresses, just because new content will inevitably come out, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
even with Ray, like we talked about it like 2 weeks ago, like with this new movie coming out, for sure we're gonna revisit Ray. Um, but we were kicking around some ideas for the upcoming shows because we're entering the holiday season, and people are probably going to be looking to purchase some holiday gifts for some friends and family.
Yeah.
And Ashley and I thought it would be kind of cool to make our next show almost like a shopping guide, to highlight maybe some small businesses or some small Star Wars makers who have gifts for us Star Wars
Yeah.
fangirls. That's not to say that we won't talk about some cool things we found on Amazon or Shop Disney or any of the other sites, but we really wanted to focus
We
and
love the
highlight.
makers.
We do. We love the makers, so we really wanted to highlight and focus on some of those. So our next show, we're actually going to take a pause on the Star Wars characters and do almost like a gift guide for some of the Star Wars fangirls in your life.
Yes. Your
There may
pin
or may not be some.
fanatics,
Yeah.
your bags, your t-shirts, your artwork, like we mugs, we get it all out there for you guys.
And I am working diligently on some exclusive shop discounts for some of these shops. So I can't guarantee
Yeah.
or promise anything, but I'm working hard to get our viewers some seasonal discounts if I
I have to
can.
say though, shout out to Tiff at A Fan Of. I was
My
the
queen.
order that put her over for the spaceship bag today. She's got a really cool crossbody bag that's shaped like the ghost. Um, so I had to pre-order that and a little matching coin purse with the fans.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so cute, so freaking cute.
I
So I had to.
so the fun story about that bag is that we were literally standing in line for the magic carpets of Aladdin at the Magic Kingdom together. And I said to her, "Tiff, I really want a ghost bag." And she's like,
It's
"Oh,
your
funny you
fault. I
should
love
say that."
it.
Yeah, Tiff and I, yeah. So I'm not saying
So,
that's all, like, I'm not taking any credit for it because
oh no
honestly, it's
no.
110% Tiff. But like, I remember saying to her, like, I really want this bag. And she's like, oh, funny you should say that. And she was like literally already talking to like manufacturers and stuff like that. So
Wow,
the
she's
very
awesome.
first sample bag is sitting in my closet, and I have taken it for test drives around the parks and everything. And it's a really good bag.
Oh,
Lots
yay!
of
That
space
is
in
so cool.
pockets, and yeah, I'll send you some pictures afterwards. But it's not the final version. Like there's
Oh, of
definitely
course
lots of
not.
changes
Yeah,
she made,
always
but I have the
improvement.
first version. It's very, very cool. It's a neat bag, so it's definitely a great gift
I'm
for anybody or for
screaming.
yourself.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she will like the
She's the
pre-orders I think
best.
end on the
The
17th.
17th. Yep.
But
You
she
have a
will
couple
have
days
some
left.
in hand. So make sure you check her out. We'll be sure to talk about her next time in
Yeah.
her shop. But
Yeah.
that's so exciting. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
Yay!
So that's what's coming up for us in the next not next week, but the Wednesday after that. We are doing a watch along tomorrow, and by we, I'm not us, but the guys are going to do a watch along tomorrow for their films that they are thankful for, and the film is The Fifth Element. So get
Multipass.
ready for that. They're going to do a watch along.
Lilu
Yeah,
Dallas
multipass.
multipass.
Um,
I'm gonna be practicing hitting those high notes like that diva. No,
that's worth watching alone.
dear God, no! My glass windows will be shattered. Sorry.
Um, there was a Life Day stream yesterday that you absolutely can watch on YouTube. So if you missed it, it is available to stream. It's available to
Yeah, from
watch.
what I
And
heard, it was an amazing, fun show. So make sure you check that out. It
there
was
you go. And then
Star Wars Neverland.
what are y'all talking about on Rebels Revisited, Ashley?
We're gonna be talking about what we're thankful for. So, um, being in Star Wars, being in geek culture, like what are you thankful for this year? What's impacted you, and what are you thankful for this year? Um, Make sure you tell us in the chats, join us, or tell us in the comments, tell us on our inboxes. Make sure you let us know because it's just as much your show as it is ours. So
I'm thankful for both my hot bearded man crushes in Star Wars getting their lightsabers released in the same month.
I'm so excited. Are you getting Stellans? I know.
Sis.
I had
I'm gonna be there
stupid,
literally at rope drop.
stupid Ashley was as
Like
soon as it was out of my mouth, I was like,
sprinting to Doc
"Rrr."
Ondor's when y'all were like, "Oh, Kanan Saber dropped today," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm paying for it. I'm at Doc Ondor's right now." It's gonna be that, but worse for Stellans because
You're gonna be sleeping in the parking lot, aren't you?
maybe maybe I mean I don't know. I don't want to release my plans. People may be watching this, but like
I know.
yeah, the Stellan lightsaber. So with Kanan was a little different, and like I know we're running over now, but like I have like 4 Kanan lightsabers at this point. So like I was excited to get the Disney one, and it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong,
So excited.
but like you know what was not on my bingo card this year? A High Republic saber. Not even close. And then to have it be Stellan's, I was like, we're in trouble. We're in
Now,
trouble. And then I think the
it's a
price point
limited,
was crazy.
right? Too?
Yeah, 5,000 pieces.
Okay.
Um, Online at Disneyland and at Walt Disney World. I'm hoping that the price point and the fact that it's a High Republic saber that a lot of people aren't familiar with are going to like drive people away, so it won't be a crazy release. But I was also there when Cal Kestis dropped, and that was a nightmare. So
To be
we're gonna give
fair,
it
I
that.
feel like the gaming community is a little
Oh,
bit bigger
way
than the
worse.
High Republic community. So
100%.
yeah, that's the part that gives me a little bit of hope for you and like
And
please be easy on her. She needs this.
Cal Kestis also dropped on May the 4th, and this is dropping on a random Friday. So
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that. It's also just a really expensive like hilt. So I'm hoping with the holidays approaching, this sounds so
What was
bad.
the
I'm buying
final
all my own
price point?
Christmas.
I could
400. Yeah, it's looking like he's gonna be a $400 saver.
I mean, just for the what?
Whereas for comparison, Kanan was 169, I think. So,
It's
but
you're
like
paying
his
for the box again.
and the comic, yeah, the box and the
Yeah.
comic.
Yeah.
That's stupid. It's
Eh.
stupid, but that's my Friday. So that's what I'm thankful for. My 2 hot bearded Jedi men getting their sabers released in the same month.
Yeah. It's Jamie's
So
month. We
poor.
just live in it.
And the Hera doll came out. Like there's all sorts of stuff that came
Did
out
you
this
get
week.
that?
Mhm.
Is it cool?
It's cool.
I
Yeah,
can
I'll
see
show
it
you.
keep popping up in my emails, and I'm like, damn it, shop Disney. I have the hot toy on pre-order.
I wish she wasn't the Ahsoka version, but like there she
Ooh.
is.
Oh, I like her face. It looks
Yeah, her
cool.
face came out all right. The proportions are a little wonk. Like you can tell that they definitely were modeling it after the live action instead of like her face should be a little more angular if they were going for animation. But I mean, there is
Yeah.
some merch be wildin' right now.
Yes,
Uh,
Mark, you know.
they really said we're gonna
We're just
We're
gonna
doing
throw
things.
everything at you right before Christmas. I mean, at least people will know what to get us.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna
If we
talk
can
about in 2
slow
weeks.
down long enough to not buy it for ourselves.
That's what's exactly, that's the big problem. Stuff flies, it's crazy. So, anyway, friends, thank you so much for joining us. Lots of
And
fun stuff. As always, you know where to find us on our socials.
yeah, make sure you also check out our Virtual Cantina Tea Public shop. There'll be
Oh, yeah.
sales as always.
Speaking of Christmas gifts.
Exclusive Daughters of the Galaxy merch. We have that
Yeah.
on there. Rebels Revisited stuff, our patriotic, our pride,
Holiday stuff is out now.
holiday stuff. If you want a VCN ugly sweater ish type shirt, it's totally there. And oh, check us out. We're so cool.
We really are.
I seriously love that shirt. But yeah, make sure you check us out on TeePublic and catch us in 2 weeks for our Maker episode.
Yay!
Happy Thanksgiving, kids.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
May the
Eat
force
all the
be with you.
turkey, so many mashed potatoes, eat that cranberry
Yes.
sauce.
Oh,
May the force
I
be with
love
y'all.
these shirts. Oh my god, they're so cool. Sorry, I have to look at them because they're just so cool. And look, this mark. Bye, guys.